Good afternoon and welcome to the John F. Gately Show. You can call me Jack, and I'm broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown here in Massachusetts. It is a gorgeous May afternoon, something like 75 degrees here with a little bit of a sea breeze. They said it was going to be very gusty. It's a breezy, but I wouldn't call it gusty out there, but definitely breezy. It's a great day to be outside. Hopefully, you get a chance to enjoy this afternoon. What a great spring day that we have. But apparently, not everyone is appreciating the Massachusetts weather. We have a blockbuster report out from the Pioneer Institute yesterday that indicates that a lot of wealthy people have decided to move from Massachusetts. Now, there had been a progressive study that had been floating around on Twitter that said that this was not happening. But it actually is happening when you look at the data from the IRS from 2021 and 2020. People with money are moving out of Massachusetts, and they're taking their tax dollars with them. Let's take a look at this important study from the Pioneer Institute issued just yesterday. I think this is the top story in the Boston Herald today. Those earning $200,000 or more annually responsible for over 60% of the lost wealth. Departures accelerating beginning in 2020. So this is something that started, sorry, a little glitchy there. There we go, that's better. This is something that started under our former Republican governor and is now going to continue and accelerate now that the Democrats have complete uniparty control of Massachusetts government. They have such control over Massachusetts government that the Republican state representatives actually voted. They are completely in the tank for the Democrat state budget. When the Democrat state budget came up for a vote a couple of weeks ago in the Massachusetts House of Representatives, all of the Republicans voted for it. The vote in favor of the state budget was 157 to nothing, and all of the Republican state representatives actually voted for the Democrat budget. Just a complete and absolute sellout. Let's take a look at this headline again. Net out migration of wealth from Massachusetts nearly quintupled from 2012 to 2021 by the Pioneer Institute. Here, all you got to do is look at this chart. Yeah, I mean, those are net outflows of adjusted gross income, AGI. That's the number somewhere near the bottom of usually on your first page of your tax return, the AGI, your adjusted gross income, minus $4.3 billion in 2021, according to the IRS. You can see the net tax returns also going down. We lost somewhere about $2.4 billion in 2020. And you imagine that once the 2022 numbers are coming along, it's probably going to be singing the same tune. Between 2019 and 2020, Massachusetts rose from 9th to 4th among all states with a net out migration of wealth, behind only California, New York, and Illinois, which those states have much larger populations than Massachusetts. Man, this is a devastating report. Here's Jim Sturgis. Net out migration has nearly quintupled, and the largest spike in departures occurred between 2020 and 2021, as that chart indicates, as remote work took hold and most other states were cutting taxes. Oh, not Massachusetts. Said Jim Sturgis, who co-authored The Tax Reality Sets In with Mary Connaughton. God, I hope I pronounced your name, Mary, correctly. And Eileen McEnany. Massachusetts, inattention to tax and competitive policies leading to a tsunami of departures. It's a tsunami. I think that's a fair characterization. For 3 decades, political leaders prioritized tax stability. And the state shed that derisive Taxachusetts label from the 1980s. Mary Connaughton said, now we've strayed from that path, and people and wealth are leaving in droves. Sorry. Let me just mute that there. Just trying to run a business here, as you know. Oh, man. Yeah, so they're gone. Migration is prompted by a broad set of tax and economic policies considered in the context of dozens of states and even more countries that are competing for employers, wealth, and talent. Massachusetts policymakers have ignored these tax realities and the rise of remote work in two ways. Now, you remember that there's a study out from Perry Real Estate Group, which is a commercial real estate firm in downtown Boston, and they are reporting startling that only 45% of financial district workers are back in the office on a regular basis. Now, the higher percentages are over like in the Back Bay. They have like 65% of people coming back to work in the Back Bay. But in the financial district, where our financial, hub is, only 45% of those people are actually back on a daily basis. I think that's an important little nugget here. Here's how the state has ignored tax realities. Massachusetts and Oregon are the only states, Oregon also far lefty nut jobs, are the only states in which estate taxes are triggered at the $1 million threshold. In contrast, 33 other states have no such tax. The federal threshold is just under 13 million. And the adoption of the Fair Share Amendment, right? The millionaire's tax that was wildly adopted the other day or last November on the top 1% of taxpayers. This is what's going to happen, folks. This is what's going to happen. After the millionaire tax, you can see this out. I said this in the fall, but after the millionaire's tax fails to generate as much revenue as it expected, all the far left liberal commies at the State House are going to be like, oh, what happened to our tax revenue? Oh, I know what we should do. We should lower the number. We should just apply the tax more broadly to make it more fair, right? That's exactly they're going to be confounded. They're going to be like, whoa, how did that not generate the money we expected? Because people left the state. And so what they will do in their endless, limitless stupidity is they'll lower the threshold that you have to pay the millionaire's tax on. And they'll make it more broad-based, and that will even drive more people out of the state. That's exactly what's coming, and you know it. Of the wealth lost in 2021, about $2.6 billion, or just 60%, was from taxpayers earning $200,000 or more per year. These are the job creators in our state. These are the job creators in our state, and the state is pushing them out. They're headed to Florida and New Hampshire, according to this report. The alarming acceleration of AGI loss was among high-income earners. So, unfortunately, if you're a 66-year-old grandma working at Dunkin' Donuts, you probably don't have the resources to move to Florida. I mean, there are obviously some individual examples that you do, but the vast majority of working-class people are staying put. And the wealthy are leaving, which means that we're going to be coming up, and our April tax revenues were surprisingly below what we expected, or maybe not so surprisingly. We're going to come a situation where we have a massive amount of fixed costs, and you know what that means is that the tax pressures are going to get higher and higher and higher for anybody that's in the middle stratosphere. The middle class here in Massachusetts, if you haven't felt the attack yet, oh, it's coming. You cannot make enough money to keep a pace of the upcoming taxes and the financial crush that is on its way. Look at that number. The deep blue line, that's people making $200,000 or more in AGI. They're like, we're out of here. Close the door. See you later. Trends among age groups is also troubling. Seeing the biggest loss from residents 55 to 65. Not 65 plus, but 55 to 65. That's usually when you make the most in your professional life, in your 50s and early 60s. They're saying, I'm out of here. Second largest cohort is, oh my God, I didn't even read this. This is really startling. 26 to 35-year-olds. Those are people that you want, the successful 26 to 35-year-old people. Those are the people you want. And they're saying, no, we're off to Florida. We're off to New Hampshire. No income tax states. 67% of the people that left went in 2021 left to Florida and New Hampshire, with Florida being the biggest destination, New Hampshire being second. Florida got 4 times as many of the departures in 2021 than New Hampshire did. Yes, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Ohio also have much larger populations. To stem the tide, the authors urge state leaders to focus on areas where tax policies are most onerous. They cite the reducing capital gains taxes. They're not going to do that. Come on, Pioneer Institute. Don't be naive. They're not going to do that. The tax treatment of S corporations and other pass-through entities that pay taxes via personal returns, and the elimination of the estate tax or significantly raising the threshold, so maybe like the federal level, which is in the neighborhood of $13 million. Policy business leaders, scholars, media professionals, and interesting citizens can use the blah, 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 blah. Okay. This is why I love the Pioneer Institute. They don't sugarcoat it, right? This is the report. People are leaving, and it doesn't look good for Massachusetts. This is the type of thing when you're like, whoa. Of course, most of the mainstream media, the drive-bys here in Massachusetts, have left this report alone. And when you look on Twitter, all of the far left people, they're not going to talk about this. They're not going to be like, oh, we better do something. If they pay attention to it at all, they're like, well, we should double the millionaire's tax, because that's their reaction to it. It's just not enough. We need to continue the work. Oh, yeah, okay. Meanwhile, close the door on your way out. So you may have noticed that yesterday, the Durham report came out, and it indicated that the whole Trump-Russia collusion thing was, I know this is going to come as a complete shock to you, fake. Yeah, so I had the opportunity today to go back and find two tweets, or one tweet from our friend Elizabeth Warren back from November of 2017. The Democratic National Committee shouldn't play favorites. Well, obviously, she's talking about how they did play favorites in 2016, where in 2020, for that matter, and basically killed off Bernie, right? That's exactly what she's talking about. But that's a whole different thing from illegally conspiring with Russia. The FBI knows the difference. Oh, do they, Elizabeth? I don't think the FBI knows the difference, because effectively what this report said is the FBI teamed up with the Hillary Clinton campaign to make up, to fabricate, to lie about this whole Russia conspiracy thing. I did get this little video to see in the spring of 2017 about how wound up and ridiculous Elizabeth Warren sounds about the whole Russia conspiracy thing back in early of 2017. Let's just see if we can cue up it's playing an ad here. Hold on a quick second. Hopefully it'll be over in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Come on now. YouTube ads, they're so annoying. Here we go.
I would have said until a few days ago that it's just to knock people, a lot of people, millions of people off their health care coverage.
Talking health care, hold on.
Or a full investigation may mean there's been criminal activity. But either way, every American.
She is so excited there might be criminal activity. It was all a lie. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Republican, independent, everybody should care about getting the right answer. Because this is partly about Donald Trump trying to set himself above the law, and it is partly about a hostile foreign government interfering in our democratic processes.
No, actually, it was about a hostile United States government agency colluding with the Hillary Clinton campaign to interfere in our electoral process. It wasn't about Russia. It was about the FBI colluding with Clinton to interfere with our elections. I could not find Elizabeth Warren's tweet or video today saying that, oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't find her. I'm sorry. The FBI should be disciplined. There should be. I couldn't find Elizabeth Warren looking for the truth and talking about the Durham report today.
We need a special prosecutor, and we need him now. Right. So
we got a special prosecutor, and basically said the whole thing was an absolute hoax, absolute positive hoax. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren, for feeding into it and being part of the big lie. Of course, she'll face probably no consequence for that because this is Massachusetts. And Massachusetts is a place when you're a Democrat, it means you don't have to say you're sorry. That's exactly what it means. All right. What do you know? The gang database is racist. The gang database is racist. That's what the Attorney General here in Massachusetts is alleging. And so you can see where this is going. This is going to go to the point where they're going to get rid of the gang database, and the streets of Massachusetts, and especially the cities, are going to be more dangerous. I think they recently did this down in New Bedford, got rid of the gang database, if I'm not mistaken, because it was racist. Massachusetts Attorney General's office has launched an investigation into allegations of racial bias by the police department youth gang unit and its associated database, according to a statement released by the office Monday. They're coming after the gang database. Certainly, the last thing Andrea Campbell wants to happen is for cops to track gang members. She doesn't want that. She wants gang members to run loose. That's what her agenda is. State officials say they review and will look into the task force work since 2018 with a goal of reforming the gang unit. We're going to reimagine the gang unit, right? This sounds exactly like reimagining policing. We're going to reimagine policing. We're going to reimagine the gang unit. Following calls from civil rights advocates who want the database to be abolished. You see, there's the play right there. It's not an honest review. It's not an honest review. Okay, let's take a look at the gang database. Maybe we can make it a little bit better. No, the stated goal is to get rid of the gang database, to make your streets more dangerous, citing alleged racism and a lack of transparency. You know, maybe the gang database shouldn't be transparent. You know, maybe it's like a sources and method thing for the police. And of course, what happened in Memphis, which is a city I love, by the way, I've been there twice, love Memphis, definitely means that the gang database in Boston is racist. The gang database in Boston is flawed and shouldn't be relied upon to make consequential decisions about people's lives, says the ACLU. The database overwhelmingly targets Black and Hispanic and young people who have been labeled as gang members for little more than wearing popular brands or even becoming a victim of gang violence. The Attorney General is right to investigate it. Okay, yeah, sure. A summary provided by the department in response to the ACL's 2019. They've been trying to get rid of this gang unit for a while. 2019 lawsuit. So 90% of the 4,700 individuals in the gang database were Black or Latino. Just because that is true doesn't mean that it's racist. It just might mean that it's factual. What is really racist, and you've heard me say this on this show before, is the fact that we effectively, and it's one of the greatest moral issues of our time here in Massachusetts, is we effectively live in a de facto apartheid where wealthy people, mostly white, live in these little enclaves like Hingham and Concord, and they're safe from the inner city, and their guilt about that prompts them to come up with all sorts of things that are going to fix the problem because they learned about it when they went to college at Colby or Brown or Hofstra. And those ideas to fix the problem, to help the inner city, are always make it worse, always make it worse. And so they come up with these ideas to alleviate their guilt, but they never actually want to do what might actually practically help. Sorry about that. You could see that. I could feel that coming. I don't know if you could see it coming. Sorry about that. They couldn't do exactly, or they won't do what actually would help, like build affordable housing in your city or town, like Hingham, right? Have Metco students bus to your city or town. They might do that in Concord, so don't somebody fact check me on. But they won't do that in any real meaningful way because they like their little mostly wealthy, mostly white little enclaves. And they like to virtue signal that they're doing the right thing to help the inner city, when really everything they do actually perpetuates the inner city, especially destroying the black family or families in general, even with welfare. Right? Their policies over the war on poverty has actually made poverty much, much worse by destroying the family unit. Youth have been surveilled in Dorchester and Roxbury for wearing a certain kind of hat or hanging out in a certain corner of the neighborhood. Well, yeah. So if you're wearing gang attire, you might be surveilled, said the Massachusetts Bail Fund director. I'm guessing he probably wants to get rid of bail altogether. There's just such a low threshold for what gets you onto the list. Oh, God. These people are just... What will happen is the gang unit will be reimagined, and Boston streets will get more dangerous, and there'll be more shootings, and it will just get worse. We used to have a model, and I was never really super sold on the Boston model that was promoted by Reverend Rivers and others during the 90s. I thought there was a lot of spin to it and a little bit too much patting yourself on the back. But there used to be this model of grassroots. The police connect with the schools, connect with business people. Everybody theoretically was working together with the churches. Everybody was working together. That at least worked some to get us out of the real problem that we had in the late 80s and early 90s. And the bad times. You think Boston crime is bad now? Wait till we get rid of this gang database and we go back to the late 80s, early 90s situation. Because that's basically what's coming. Mark my word, it's on the way. So, don't you dare try to get rid of any jobs in Massachusetts that are state worker jobs. So out in Amherst, the University of Massachusetts is trying to eliminate 100 fundraising jobs. You can imagine they have 100 different fundraisers. As we learned yesterday, they have UMass Amherst has some of the highest paid salary employees in the state. So they have this plan to get rid of 100 salaried state workers who do fundraising for the university. And now the state auditor says, whoa, pump the brakes on that, because you have to get approval from the state auditor's office to prove that privatization is going to save money. So, yeah, this is all a union thing, because these state jobs are really good jobs at good wages. Mike Dukakis. And now they have all these laws in places that basically prevent management from doing anything that possibly could save money or be more efficient. So state auditor Diana DiZioglio, however you pronounce her name, wrote to UMass Chancellor Kumble Subsawami that the Taxpayer Protection Act requires plans such as the one Taxpayer Protection Act. Let me assure you that the Taxpayer Protection Act does not protect taxpayers in any way, shape, or form. It should be called the Union State Job Hackathon Protection Act, because that's what this bill is. The title of the bill is the exact opposite of the intent of the bill. Just remember that, and you'll be okay. Taxpayer protection. I can't even read anymore. All right, that was just too funny. I'm just going to go on to the next story. Where is it? I keep on getting bumped from it all. Taxpayer. I can't even read that. Can't take that seriously. Let's take the next story seriously. Turtle Boy Daily News, which is tbdailynews.com. TB Daily News is out with a story. This is a story that I've not really covered. I've been watching it. I know there's a lot of buzz about it. But in part 32 of the Canton cover-up story that Aidan Kearney calls it over at TB Daily News, which is almost unreadable, this website, just visually. Norfolk County DA's office forced to enter Dighton police logs into evidence, showing Michael Proctor had Karen Reed's car towed 2 hours before he claimed in report. Oh boy. Okay. So, he apparently he gets it. There's just so many ads. It's almost impossible to read. You got to just kind of go down here somewhere to find the actual lead. It's just brutal to read this website. Copy of the call log. Dighton is where Karen Reed's parents live and where she drove to be with her family on the day she allegedly struck and killed John O'Keefe. Allegation, she's up for trial. She's obviously innocent until proven guilty, if ever. As we showed in the Canton cover-up part 18, Trooper Michael Proctor said that he arrived at their home at 4:30 p.m. and noticed a cracked taillight on Reed's vehicle and called for it to be towed back to Canton at 5:30. However, Alarm.com video from Reed's house shows the car being towed at 4:12. Huh. That's interesting. He wrote in his report, allegedly, that he arrived at their home at 4:30 and called for the tow at 5:30, but it was actually towed at 4:12. Now, you could say that maybe the timer on the Alarm.com thing was calibrated incorrectly or something. Who knows? There could be a reasonable explanation for this. We'll have to wait until the trial. This means that Trooper Proctor and the vehicle were unaccounted for a period of 1 hour and 18 minutes, allegedly, during the CERT team search for the crime scene at 5:45. That must be like the crime scene people. Found pieces of Karen Reed's taillight that the Canton police did not see 12 hours earlier, despite over a foot of snow that had fallen during that time. That's interesting. Again, in order to actually read this, it's almost impossible to read a story on Turtle Boy. No offense, Turtle Boy. You write some interesting blogs, but it's almost unreadable. I know, and he does have a paid option if you want to go do that, knock yourself out. But I'm guessing that's also unreadable. But his allegation here is that he had it 2 hours towed before he claimed in the report. So, that reads an hour and 58 minutes unattended or unaccounted for, according to Turtle Boy. That's an interesting thing. What I've definitely noticed is that things are breaking on Turtle Boy, and then they're being picked up, usually without attribution. And I'm happy to attribute it, this story, to Turtle Boy, since it's not my story, not my investigation. And I am definitely saying allegedly. Things are being picked up on Turtle Boy by some mainstream outlets, definitely without attribution in most cases, because they'll let Turtle Boy do all the work, and then they'll pick up as if they investigated it themselves. That's how the mainstream media works, right? There'll be some independent blogger who does all the footwork, comes up with the story, comes up with the facts, digs up the police reports, and then the mainstream media will pick it up and totally pretend that that blogger doesn't even exist. That's what's been happening in this story. Not to say that everything he's written is true. I don't know. What do I know? I've been following it, but not nearly as closely as many of you. But that's definitely something that's been going on for sure. And this report, the reason I included this report is I think there is absolutely something to it in terms of you're looking at a situation where there's some police reports from the town of Dighton that seem, impeachable or unimpeachable, I should say. So there seems that could be a little nugget or something there that seems to require more investigation. Of course, some of that is being fed by the defense, and it's hard to say. That's why we have trials. Okay. Supreme Court decision could mean changes to how pigs are treated in Massachusetts. So your eggs have already gone up in price, and now your pork chops are. Look at that nice pig. Oh, I love pigs. They taste great. And yeah, I love a good pork chop. A Supreme Court decision, I think that was out of California, if I'm not mistaken, now could mean changes for farmers in Massachusetts and beyond. Pork sold in the state must come from pigs with certain amount of living space. Oh, God, I hope they get enough living space. A Massachusetts law required something similar through an initiative almost 7 years ago. New requirements for Massachusetts of how much space producers must provide egg-laying chickens and veal calves has already gone into effect. But the rules for pigs were put on hold pending the Supreme Court's decision. Carol Holmquist with the Massachusetts SPCA said the group is thrilled and relieved by the ruling. We are just really glad that so many more animals will be spared the suffering from this type of confinement. Well, I feel so much better. And I'm going to be really happy when I have to pay my extra money for my pork chops at Market Basket. That's going to be really very, very fun. I'm so glad that the pigs are going to have enough living space. Thank God for that. So we brought to you this story about the racist, unconstitutional 14th Amendment violating map of Boston City Council districts. We've been talking about this the last couple of shows. And now it's back at the city council. Mayor Wu has come up with a proposal. Two other councilors have come up with their own proposal. And true to form, thankfully, the Boston City Council is completely embarrassing themselves on this situation. They've sent it to the Civil Rights Committee rather than the Redistricting Committee. Nobody is happy, and they're all bickering amongst themselves. I bet you they just wished that the court drew its own map, but no, they sent it back to the city council to come up with, and we're not going to go through about which precinct is in which district, only to say that they're eating their own, which is fantastic. They're now saying that the new map is akin to making Boston great again. It's Trump-like. Michelle Wu proposed her own map to criticism from advocacy organizations, including the NAACP, Lawyers for Civil Rights, and the Chinese Progressive Association. The group slammed the plan as regressive and one that breaks up neighborhoods that were traditionally marginalized populations live in order to keep South Boston and the southeastern portions of Dorchester united. In what is akin to a Make Boston Great Again proposal, the new map threatens decades of progress, the coalition statement said. We believe that neighborhoods should be unified and that historically disenfranchised communities of interest should not be used as political stepping stones. As we reported yesterday, a major civil rights attorney in Boston said that the real crime of the city council was not actually drawing the map as the way they did, but being too frank about their racist motives, which was racist against white people. And if they're going to draw a new map, they should just draw it, but not make any overt statements about their racist motivations. So yeah, that's what's happening in Boston. They'll tweak the map a little bit, and they'll try to do their best not to mention how racist it is. And we'll see where this goes. We're going to follow this story, but definitely at this point, they're kind of embarrassing themselves. All right, let's bring up this next story, which is dangerous stunt. Video shows group of kids riding bicycles through traffic in busy Boston tunnel. I don't know why this was not the top story, or maybe it will be this afternoon because this video is this story is just breaking. I did look it up, however, and there actually is another instances of this, and we can bring up the video here. Here we go. Hopefully you'll be able to see those kids going through the tunnel. Give it a second. At least in 2019, there was another similar story. Here you see in this picture, they're going through the tunnel. Let's see. I have. Oh, okay. They actually only have still shots. Let's see if we can get it. They're actually not showing the picture. Sorry. There they are. They're exiting the tunnel. They went through the Tip O'Neill Tunnel on their bicycles. And you can see from these photos, even though those are kind of still shots, I don't know why it's not playing for you. You can see that that these kids are like 12. These kids are like 12, and they're just driving through the tunnel on their bicycles. Here's a better shot here. There they are entering, and I'm pretty sure that's like Leverett Circle, if I'm not mistaken. And here they are in the middle of the tunnel. Oh, so sorry about that. Here they are, popping wheelies. They're popping wheelies in the middle of the tunnel. MassDOT picture. And of course, the police say, well, this is an arrestable offense, but we're not going to follow them for safety reasons. What do you think's going to happen? These kids are going to go home. They're going to tell their other knucklehead friends what they did, and then more kids will do it. What they absolutely positively need to do is arrest these kids to teach them a lesson. But the system in Massachusetts, they don't have the will to do that. So we're going to have more and more of these. And again, I looked it up. I found another situation, the same exact thing from 2019. And I'm sure there have been many other situations. I've been in the tunnel, Tip O'Neill Tunnel. I remember I was there, I don't know, maybe like in the morning. I dropped somebody off at the airport, and I seen some guy just strolling through the tunnel on foot. And maybe you've seen other kind of crazy things like that as well. So here comes more taxes. We started today's show with a story about taxes. Now people are leaving Massachusetts. Now there's going to be a proposal, which I'm guessing is going to pass. A fee on Massachusetts property insurance could help right the climate wrongs, advocates say, because the climate thing is racist. There may be a few winners when dealing with the ever-worsening impacts of climate change, but there are definite losers, says Stephen Long, Director of Government Relations for the Nature Conservancy. All too often, the losers are the poorest and most vulnerable. You see, climate change is also racist. How convenient. Diane Hills, Executive Director of My Brother's Table in Lynn, says, look no further than the heat effects you see to see the inequalities. The poorer you are living in the poorer you are living in an urban area, the more likely you are to experience urban heat, which can be as much as 20-degree difference. I will say one of the reasons I moved to Plymouth is the mild winters and the beautiful sea breeze, which I'm literally enjoying at this split second coming through my breeze here high above Town Square in downtown Plymouth, America's hometown. I moved here for the breeze and to get out of the heat. Heat-trapped areas tend to be minority and low-income neighborhoods. There are plenty of places. Let me tell you, I lived on Beacon Hill. I lived in the North End. Those are kind of, higher end. They're hot in the summertime too. But don't worry, how much money is needed to adequately address the racism that is built into the climate change or climate inequities? Nobody actually knows, because at least in Massachusetts, there's no direct research digging into how far funding, how much money they need. But they don't know how much money made, but they figure around $100 million will do it annually. What's clear is there's not enough money to do everything we need to do regarding climate change, but $100 million will probably do it for us. So, Sal Domenico, Natalie Blazes, and Patricia Dovey have a bill that would create a climate and community resilience fund, which once again will do the exact opposite, that would raise up to $100 million a year through property insurance surcharge. Oh, isn't that beautiful? And it's going to help soften the blow of environmental injustices on historically harmed community, similar to what Governor Baker failed to do in the Transportation Climate Initiative. Oh, isn't that nice? The exact mechanism and levy would be left to an independent board. So this is how, state legislators get out of voting for hard things. They're going to pass this in concept, and then they're going to send it to an independent board to actually figure out how they're going to surcharge your property insurance. So if you have a homeowner's policy, there's going to be an extra number. You're already paying a lot for homeowner's policy. Maybe you haven't noticed. yeah, it's might be wrapped up in your monthly mortgage payment. There's going to be another charge on there that's going up, highly likely. If you have commercial property, it's going to go up. Yep, because you're a climate racist. You're a climate racist. You have to pay more. They don't know how much it's going to take to smooth out the injustices from climate change, but $100 million. Does this, if it doesn't sound like a shakeup to you, it definitely shake down to you. It's definitely nice storefront you have here. Shame if anything should happen to it. This is a climate racism shakedown. That's exactly what it is. Oh boy. All right, our last story today. Minuteman Tech Superintendent placed on leave following walkout. Vote of no confidence. Now, I don't know anything about Kathleen Dawson other than to say she was hired about a year ago by Minuteman Tech, and she declined to renew the contract of Principal George Clement. And what you're going to find here in this story is that the faculty of Minuteman Tech voted 90-0 of a vote of no confidence in Kathleen Dawson, the superintendent. And shortly thereafter, she was placed on leave when a raft of allegations came to fruition. How convenient. They also sent the kids out. They used the kids as pawns in a protest saying how much they loved Mr. Clement. You know, what is absolutely positively happening here, and if you can't see what's happening here, you are absolutely positively blind. Highly likely, I think we have some B-roll here of the students.
From Lex Local, I'm your host, Rick Dorrington. This morning, over 200 Minuteman High School students staged a walkout to save their principal, Mr. Clement.
What is absolutely positively happening here? Kids out there protesting, love Mr. Clement. What's absolutely positively happening here is Patricia Dawson noticed that the principal, allegedly, is probably in the tank with the teachers union. And so she said to herself, if we're going to get this school headed in the right direction, we need a new principal that actually follows management's direction rather than the union direction. And when she made that decision, I'm just speculating here, the union went bonkers because they're the ones that are in charge. Remember, who's in charge of your schools? The unions. And when somebody came along independently and said, you know what, we're going to have a principal who actually responds to management, the union went bonkers and voted 90-0 to get rid of her, vote of no confidence. Then they sent out the kids all prepared for a rally to support the principal because they are probably leery of the new principal that might come along will probably toe the line. Highly likely the current principal is completely captured by the teachers union. Yeah, that's the case. And so now she's gone, or she's out the door. She's not coming back from this. I don't think she's coming back from this. And what is the moral of the story here? If you're workers and you don't like how the boss is doing their job, then if you're a teacher in a union, you can basically get rid of the superintendent. Because the teachers unions run the schools for the benefit of the teachers union, not for the benefit of your kids. Right? I mean, that is just crystal clear. And that's exactly what's happening here. They didn't like that they were going to get a new principal. Why? Because they had captured that principal like a flag. And then they send out the kids to protest. They use the kids as pawns in their political union game because they want to control the principal. So let's get rid of the superintendent. That's exactly what's happening at Minuteman Tech, which is a shame. All right. Is there any other stories today? I think that was the last story. So for the time being, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown in Massachusetts. Have a great day. Bye-bye.